Number 1. Classic Autism. Canner's Type. Imagine living in a world where every noise is a fire alarm, every fabric feels like sandpaper, and social interaction is basically speaking Martian at a tea party hosted by humans. Welcome to Classic Autism, the OG diagnosis first described by Dr. Leo Kanner back in the 1940s, when psychology still thought moms caused everything and lobotomies were trending. This type of autism comes with the whole buffet: significant challenges in communication, repetitive behaviors, and a tendency to live in a highly structured internal world. Kids with this profile might speak late or not at all, obsess over routines like a neurotic librarian, and passionately love things like ceiling fans or train schedules the way others love Taylor Swift. And before you go, assuming they're not aware, hold that thought. They might not show it the way you're used to, but many are soaking up everything. They just don't feel the need to explain themselves to your neurotypical expectations. Honestly, power move. So why is it classic? Because it's the version that got all the early research attention and, unfortunately, all the stereotypes. But like an outdated phone model, classic autism is only one version in a much bigger lineup. Number 2. Asperger's syndrome. RIP, sort of. Once upon a time, being called Asperger's meant you were the Sherlock Holmes of autism, wildly smart, socially awkward, and capable of monologuing about Saturn's rings for hours. People with Asperger's, which technically got rolled into autism spectrum disorder in 2013 RIP, DSM-Y, have average or above average intelligence, but often struggle with things like sarcasm, eye contact, and pretending to care about small talk. They don't have delays in language development, but they may talk at you rather than with you, like a TED Talk you didn't ask for but somehow still respect. Here's the deal. Asperger's folks often mask their differences so well they get misdiagnosed with anxiety or depression first. And by masking, we mean they learn to act neurotypical, the way a cat learns to swim, reluctantly, awkwardly, and just enough to avoid drowning in group chats. Fun fact. The name Asperger's came from Hans Asperger, who turned out to have a very not fun Nazi connection. So yeah, maybe it's for the best the label got retired, but the unique profile? Still very real. Number 3. PDD-NOS, ACA, the junk drawer diagnosis. Imagine going to a doctor and getting diagnosed with, "You're sorta kinda autistic, probably." That, in a nutshell, was PDD-NOS, pervasive developmental disorder, not otherwise specified. Or, as I like to call it, we don't know where else to put you. This category used to catch all the folks who didn't quite meet the criteria for full-on autism or Asperger's, but definitely weren't sailing smoothly on the neurotypical ship either. Think of it as the diagnostic equivalent of a mystery-flavored dum-dum. PDD-NOS was perfect for kids who had quirky language, social delays, or sensory weirdness, but didn't tick enough boxes for a formal autism label. And while it gave families access to support, it was also kind of a diagnostic shrug. The DSM-5 eventually said, "Okay, enough with the vague categories," and folded PDD-NOS into the big warm blanket called autism spectrum disorder. But hey, if you were diagnosed pre-2013, welcome to the land of forgotten acronyms. Number 4. Childhood Disintegrative Disorder, CDD, aka WTF Autism. Picture this. Your kid's hitting all the milestones. Talking, walking, knowing the difference between SpongeBob and real life the usual. Then, boom. Around age 3 or 4, it all starts vanishing. Words disappear. Social skills evaporate. Potty training? Yeeted back to level 1. It's like the neurological equivalent of factory reset. Welcome to Childhood Disintegrative Disorder, a rare, terrifying, and deeply misunderstood form of autism that's basically the horror movie version. Unlike other autism types that show signs early on, CDD lures parents into a false sense of neurotypical security and then snatches it away like an evil raccoon stealing your picnic. Scientists still aren't entirely sure what causes it, but they are sure it's not just regular autism with a flair for drama. It's a separate neurodevelopmental nosedive that impacts language, motor skills, and pretty much every area where kids are expected to, function. And before you ask, no, it's not vaccine injury. Let's not go there. The silver lining? With intense support, some children regain certain skills. But even if they don't, understanding CDD gives us a deeper glimpse into just how fragile and bizarre the developing brain can be. It's autism with a plot twist and a villainous arc. Number 5. Rett syndrome. Genetic plot twist. Rett syndrome is like nature trying out a new software patch and then immediately regretting it. It almost exclusively affects girls due to some X chromosome gymnastics, and it starts off deceptively normal. Like, wow, she's crawling and babbling and everything's great, kind of normal. Then suddenly, it's like the brain hits a wall. The child stops developing, starts losing skills, especially hand movements and speech, and you get repetitive motions like hand-wringing or clapping that look more compulsive than cute. Rett syndrome is technically a genetic disorder, not classic autism, but for a long time it got lumped in with autism spectrum disorders because the symptoms can look eerily similar. The big difference? We know the villain here, a mutation in the MEC2 gene. Basically, one tiny typo in the body's instruction manual, and boom, neurological chaos. Rhett's a tough one. It's rare, lifelong, and affects mobility, communication, and often breathing. But the kicker? These girls often understand more than they can express. They're trapped behind a malfunctioning body, full cognitive ability, little way to show it. It's like being in a broken-down car during a high-speed chase. So, while it might have exited the official autism roster, Rett syndrome still deserves a seat at this very weird neurodevelopmental table. Number 6. Level 1 autism, aka you seem normal enough. Let's talk about Level 1 autism, also known as you don't look autistic, which is something no autistic person wants to hear, but every autistic person has heard. Level 1 autism used to go by names like Asperger's syndrome until scientists realized naming a neurotype after a literal Nazi doctor was, not ideal. So now it lives under the broader autism spectrum disorder umbrella, and Level 1 just means you need some support, but not necessarily a full-time sensory bunker. People with Level 1 autism are often high-functioning, whatever that means, but that doesn't mean they're doing fine. It just means they've learned to mask their sensory overload, social confusion, and executive dysfunction with enough skill to pass as quirky, think, intense special interests, sensory issues with tags or fluorescent lights, and a deep, soul-level hatred for small talk. They're the folks who rehearse every conversation in their head before ordering coffee, and still get it wrong. The ones who hyperfixate on Roman military tactics or the physics of soap bubbles while forgetting to eat lunch. Just because they don't rock back and forth or avoid eye contact 100% of the time doesn't mean the gears aren't grinding under the surface. Autism at this level is invisible until it's not like when someone melts down in a grocery store because the fluorescent lights were buzzing at exactly the frequency of a war crime. Number 7. Level 2 autism. Hello, Overwhelm. Level 2 autism is where the brain's operating system is like, we're going to need more RAM, a tech support team, and maybe a therapy llama. At this level, people need substantial support. We're talking about challenges with communication, social interaction, and daily routines that would make a Google Calendar cry. Imagine trying to function in a world where everything is too loud, too fast, and too unpredictable, and nobody else seems to notice or care. Verbal communication might be limited or overly formal. Social interactions? Exhausting. Eye contact? Optional and not preferred. Sensory input? A literal battlefield. These are the people who might stim openly, avoid group situations, and genuinely need structure like it's oxygen. And here's the kicker, they often know they're different. They just can't filter or mask it enough to survive in a neurotypical world without serious support, which often doesn't show up until things hit crisis level. Think of it as life on expert mode, except nobody gave you the manual, and the game keeps changing rules without telling you. That's level 2. Still intelligent, still aware, still human, just running a different version of reality software that needs regular debugging. Number 8. Foreign accent syndrome. Nope, this isn't a TikTok prank. Foreign accent syndrome is a legit condition where after a brain injury or stroke, someone suddenly starts speaking their native language with what sounds like a foreign accent. You wake up from a coma in New Jersey, sounding vaguely French or British, or like you're auditioning for a Bond villain. This doesn't mean you're faking an accent, it's your speech patterns being warped by neurological damage. The rhythm, intonation, stress on syllable sit all get scrambled, and voila, suddenly people think you're trolling them. It's rare, like only a few dozen documented cases rare, but it's very real, and also wildly misunderstood. Some people get treated like they're faking it for attention. Others have full-blown identity crises. Imagine sounding like someone else for the rest of your life and not being able to change it. The science behind it? Damage to the brain's speech centers, especially in the left hemisphere. It's like your tongue is trying to speak normally, but your brain's GPS has been rerouted through the international terminal. In short, your speech is still yours. It just took a long, weird trip through the neural funhouse.